I hope everyone had lunch. So, where were we? Yes, we were saying that karma niyama, karmic order, is a natural law by itself. It is a natural law, but it is not an external natural law like the first one, for example, like the utuniyama, physical order. So bija niyama, utu niyama, existential order, they are natural orders. Chitta niyama and karma niyama is also a natural law by itself, but that is an internal natural law. Why it is natural? We don't have control over that order, that niyama, and then we have control over action, but not the result of it. So once the action is performed, once the action is done, and then the result being produced thereof becomes beyond our control. And then, but that, as we were saying, the only way to have some control over the karmic order is that you plant new ideas, new intentions, so that so you could have created new karma. And that karma, new karma, you can use the newly created karma to push to the sides the other types of karma that would otherwise come into fruition. And then now in planting new karma, you need to use meditative techniques, meditation also, because as you try to plant new intentions, in case the mind is not stable enough, in case the mind hasn't settled, you wouldn't be able to plant the kind of karma that you need to plant in your head. For example, you are someone living with the group, and then the people. Some people in your group could be your own family, could be a group of co-workers sharing a house, could be your roommates, and then so that you are a peaceful person. And then since you joined the group, since you became one of the roommates, because of some other roommates doing, you always are restless. So that because you have to encounter negative vibration from them, so that you find it difficult to use your peaceful mind. So that you find it difficult to, otherwise overall you are a peaceful person, you don't bother anyone. And then as far as you could remember, you haven't done anything bad to someone else, even to yourself, and so that you live in peace. But what happens is, since you became part of that group, you find it difficult to do that. As a result, what automatically happens is you have to make no effort to plant negative intention, negative karma, because we automatically, even subconsciously, we tend to plant negative karma in our head. So in order to plant positive intentions, you need to change the surroundings, so that as you find it difficult to meditate, difficult to maintain inner peace, and so that you not only fail to plant new karma, you also fail to benefit from the already done good karma. At that point, as it is suggested in different parts of the Canon, you need to do two things. You need to temporarily change the surroundings. out at least temporarily. For example, if you find it difficult to live with that group, but there's no choice that you can't walk away, you got to stay with them. At that point, probably you can make time to go to a quiet place, leave the group temporarily, and go to a quiet place where you don't encounter similar distractions, that you can meditate. So at this point, meditation is not necessarily means that you stick to certain meditation objects like metta or breathing or any other things. It means that you move to a peaceful surroundings, peaceful physical surroundings, so that you can start thinking, you can start clearing your mind of the negativities that were produced by some members of the group that you stay with. So one thing is you need to create peaceful surroundings for yourself temporarily. Second one is, at times you need to make some changes to a lifestyle. There must be a lifestyle change. Change of the surroundings temporarily, a change of the lifestyle. So that those are the two things that you need to think about when you want to make some changes to your karma. And that's what we were talking about before lunch. And then again, we also happen to say that karma is not a cosmic criminal justice system. It's not like a reward and punishment type of command that you have to obey. Because Buddhism, being a humanistic religion, does not approve the existence of, does not believe in creator, and so that's, you are responsible for your own actions. And then so you always can take preventive measures. Not once karma is done, it would be difficult to change it. I mean, change in terms of the fact that pushing that karma to the sides. So that the newly created karma can take over, and so that you would feel peaceful. So Buddhism, in Buddhism, karma is not a cosmic criminal system, and no supernatural force or God is directing it to reward the good and punish the wicked. Karma is rather a natural tendency for skillful Kosala actions to create beneficial effects, and unskillful akusala actions to create harmful or painful effects. Karma, once created, becomes the property of Bhavanga, subliminal consciousness. That's what we were talking about. So then, karma is one of the fundamental teachings of Buddha. It is one of the complex areas of Buddhist psychology. Now, there are certain areas, and you come up with kind of questions in the Pali texts. Tapaniya questions. Tapaniya. So that tapaniya literally means just to disregard, or just to, tapaniya questions mean, and Buddha with his physical gestures. Let's say when you ask him certain questions, and Buddha is not going to answer that question, because it's not that because he is unable to answer, but that you wouldn't be able to digest his answer. At that point, he would eat this gesture like this, meaning rest it. You may not ask it, meaning I may not answer it. Because especially there are a few areas, one of them being karma. and then mind. So that karma and mind are two such areas of which when you ask certain questions, you would refuse to answer. That's called tapaniya questions, because the very person asking the question would not be able to digest the answer that Buddha provides you with. And karma, meaning karma is such a complex, it's one of the complex areas of Buddhist psychology. And then we go to the same thing again. However, in the teaching karma, it does not mean mere action, but are produced by our intentional action. Our actions, namely mental, verbal, and bodily, involving intention, Pali Chetana, produce karma. We went through that. Actually, we came up with the same at the beginning as well. In other words, unintentional action produces no karma. So unless the action is intentional, it does not create any karma. Some people call it karmic energy, since it is an energy. Once created karma becomes part of our consciousness that we talked about before, subliminal consciousness. Karma is classified in different ways. Karma is basically twofold: wholesome karma, that is Kosala Karma in Pali, and unwholesome karma, that's Akusala Karma in Pali. Now we're going to start our discussion on different classifications of karma that you come across in Theravada Buddhism, in Pali Buddhism. So the classification of karma, and then we would, the classifications are done with respect to function, and then with respect to time of taking effect, with respect to priority, and then, so yeah, these are the three areas. So that function, time of taking effect, and then priority. Now, so I think you more or less went through the list in the previous coursework. Now, anyway, in this class, we discuss karma at length, and we simply touch on almost every Buddhist concept, Buddhist teachings during our previous coursework, just by comparative terms. But here, we just consider those teachings in depth. Now, so let's look at the first classification of karma, first group of karma, or the first type of karma. The first type is with regard to function. The first one is reproductive karma. This is the kind of karma that produces mental and aggregates and material, so that it aggregates, and so that the mental, it has to be, I think there's some typo here, produces mental, not aggregate. It has mental and material aggregates. So mental and material aggregates. At the moment of conception, embryonic birth, and throughout the lifetime of the individual, it is called reproductive, since it produces as a new being upon death from the existing life form. Now it is called, I think we just touch upon, we did hear a term last thought moment. So last thought moment is the moment that occurs just before our death, just before our consciousness terminates from the physical body, and then it leaves the physical body, and then it's called reproductive. As we say, there are three. When it comes to human birth, or birth in the womb, and according to Mahanidana Sutra, as we talk about, there are three conditions. womb is ready, and then so the physical part of the embryo is ready. That means the sperm and ovum that cross-fertilize each other. So that so the sperm and ovum, male egg cell and female egg cell, together creates what's called the embryo. And then in Buddhism in particular, we use whenever you say embryo, that is the physical part. But according in Buddhist terminology, that is the physical part, biological part of the embryo, because there's a psychological part of the embryo as well. Usually in science, but there's now there are differences of opinion as to whether consciousness or soul is a totally different entity. But according to classical medical sciences, like 18th century medical science, and then so that soul or consciousness is not considered a separate entity that comes to integrate with the embryo. And then so the consciousness would be understood in terms of brain function of the brain. But in nowadays it's different too. And then there's no scientific proof that soul or Atman or consciousness is something that arrives at the embryo from the outside, that it is a foreign entity, that it pushes itself into the embryo, because there's no such scientific imagination. So the scientists don't say that. But according to Buddhism, so that when the embryo is ready, and then the consciousness, or the Bhavanga consciousness, or Atman, if you want to use the theistic terms, arrives, and it gets qualified. Now, even if there are millions of, you are now in a place where there's 1 million cell phones left. But so that only the number, only the SIM card that is inserted into the phone, which has a certain number that you call, and it's only that telephone, only that phone that can receive your phone call. So likewise, even if there are millions of wombs, it is the womb that you are qualified by your karma at the last thought moment, that you are supposed to go and push yourself into. So that I think so Stevenson, probably some of you might have read Professor Stevenson's book on rebirth, and he was I think he's no more. He was a professor of he's a professor at University of Virginia, and then he has written a very nice book on reincarnation. I mean rebirth, and then in your free time, please read that book. It comes with it's full of different rebirth stories, and according to some stories. Now, so now when it comes to rebirth stories, those who remember their past life, they can only explain up to their death, and they wouldn't remember afterwards. And some would say, okay, it was I was the pilot, so my plane crashed into a river, and then I felt like now I am thrashing on the water, and so that I felt like I'm suffocating, and then it was the water all around, and then I wouldn't remember anything. And then according to some stories, okay, I was this was the kind of accident in which I died. As I was suffocating, I feel like I'm entering a dark cave, and that's all I could remember. And in another story, while I entered, and then I got freed from like prison, and that's what he felt, that his consciousness had just left the physical body. And then I kept floating in the sky, and then I saw a woman standing down there, and then I felt like getting dragged in towards her, but again I was pushed back, and then there was another woman standing, and then I felt like I'm being dragged towards her. Then I got pushed back, and then so that I went up again, and there was another woman. As I saw her, I felt like I'm being dragged down towards her so dramatically, so fast, and it happened so quick. And then that's all I remember. Then I entered into a dark cave or something. That's all I could remember. And that's the moment that consciousness. So the consciousness pushed itself into the embryo, according to Stevenson's conclusion. So there is something fascinating too. Now, when the consciousness, between the time that consciousness disintegrates with the physical body, from the physical body, and until the time it pushes itself into an embryo, if it is a human birth, if it is a birth that occurs in a womb, so that it would be very hard to see that intermediate state between life and rebirth. But according to some stories in Stevenson's book, and somehow some beings, some people would vaguely talk about that intermediate state as well. Now, it is that intermediate state between death and rebirth that has created the way, paved the way for lots of debates among different schools of Buddhism. And that's when some Buddhist schools came up with the idea of interim birth. There's a birth between death and rebirth. According to Theravada, the Pali Canon, there was no such thing. There's no interim birth, and some people may get reborn into a certain mind-made bodies, if it's especially, and so that, and they wouldn't stay. For example, someone who has done lots of good karma, Kosala, may happen to get reborn into a awful state or a miserable state, realm, because of the negative last thought moment that they happen to have before death. But let's say you have done all you have done throughout your life is good, but somehow at the last thought moment you get terrorized and you are scared. So as a result, maybe that shaky feeling could produce some negative karma, out of fear, out of insecurity. So temporarily, you may, because the law of karma is such that the next birth is triggered by the last thought moment, even though you have done only good things throughout your life, but somehow at your last thought moment, you got shaky, and then you, out of fear or insecurity or out of attachment to this lifetime, and as a result, you are having, it is that that karma of fear that is taking you over. As a result, you may be reborn into a miserable realm, but temporarily. You wouldn't stay there that long. Why? Because you will soon live out of that reproductive karma, and soon you will leave and then you will move to a better realm. And the other part of the other side of the story is, and you haven't done anything good throughout their lifetime. You have only done hurting others, stealing, all the criminal activity. But somehow, so due to a certain reason, and at your last thought moment, you happen to create some peaceful feelings. As a result, you may be temporarily reborn into a blissful state, blissful realm, but you would not stay there that long. Why? Because it is your reproductive karma will end very soon, and you will move to another stage, another realm where you will suffer for a long time. So that's how it is. But that is one way of it happening, and there are other ways too. And then so overall, you are a good meditator, and then you all, even if you happen to do bad things, you meditate on good things. That is Chaga Nusati, recollection meditation on good, recollection meditation on good, recollection meditation on Kosala that you have done. And then so the more you revisit a certain karma, whether good or bad, the more you do that, that particular karma remains closer to the surface level of your consciousness. So as a result, you can invite, you can, so at that point also see that karma is not fate. You can make some, you can have some control during your lifetime, and then you choose certain good karma and meditate on them, revisit them. Why is always advisable to do that in a meditative state, meditative stage, or having put the mind in the meditative mode, is that then you don't encounter other distractions, and so that's so that you don't necessarily meditate, but as you are multitasking, you can simply be happy of the good things you have done. But if you do that specifically in the meditative stage, and you can very easily enhance those good karmas, and then the more you meditate on them, the closer they would remain to the surface level of your consciousness, and thereby creating a higher probability that those favorite karma that you have meditated on a frequent, continual basis, that would trigger your rebirth, next birth. So that is, and then so the reproductive karma is Janaka. Now, excuse me. So the reproductive is the karma that reproduces you. Reproduces, creates the being back in a different life form, hence reproductive. And reproductive karma is the karma that we encounter, that comes into fruition at the last thought moment. And you can practice that, like usually in Bodhisattvas, as I said. Regular meditators and Bodhisattvas, those who practice the Bodhisattva path, they can have some chosen good karma closer to the surface level. And that is where you have to make resolution too. That's called adhitthana, resolution. And that's where Buddha has recommended resolutions, meaning toward the end of any good thing, good action like karma, helping others, charity, and you always make, okay, I, for the purpose of salvation, nirvana, so that I want to remain safe in the samsara. And as a result, may I may this good karma come to my rescue at my death. And then so I'm not interested in anything else but this particular karma, and to make that resolution. And so that and that resolution, that karma, could thereby you strengthen, you revisit by revisiting that karma, and then you strengthen that karma, re-strengthen that karma, and so that karma would remain closer to the surface level of your consciousness, and that would help you to achieve a good rebirth upon death. And birth in Buddhism is not the date of birth that we know. It's not a coming. It's not. It's not the moment that. It's not the day that our mother delivered us to the world from her womb. That's not the birth. Actually, birth in Buddhism, birth of the individual is called the embryonic birth. So that occurs at the moment of conception in the mother's womb. And there are 4 types of birth. So the reproductive karma, and that also comes under a reproductive karma. So that some are Andaja birth. Andaja means born from of egg, like chicken, like the birth of a chicken, born from an egg. And second one is Jala Puja. That is birth in the womb. It's like so that it's like certain human beings. I mean, human beings and mammals and certain how to say human beings give birth to so live offspring, and some animals, some creatures give birth to eggs, and then and giving birth to live offspring is the womb death, or the death from birth from in the womb, second one. And third one is Sanse Daja, that is born of moisture, and this is called and microorganisms or living microorganisms like bacteria, and they come under this category, moisture borne category type of birth. And the next one is opapathika, that is spontaneous birth. Spontaneous meaning you don't go through the fetal process, fetal stages like in the womb, and you don't go through a simple birth process just like the micro living organisms like bacteria and stuff. And you are not born from an egg, so that chicken lays the egg, and then and then a being is born from the egg, and then when it comes to, and so there's some biological process involved in the case of all the first three types of birth, and there's a biological process involved, whereas the last type of birth or rebirth is not purely mental, it's not biological, it is a mental process of birth. Why? Those who are born into a mind-made body, they don't go the biological process, and so they are simply as the consciousness terminates at the last thought moment, and then upon death, immediately after death, consciousness, bhavanga, storehouse, consciousness or Atman, soul, so that gets reborn into a body that is again that is created by the mental power itself. And then what happens is now so that at the very moment that you are reborn as a mental being, you get all your limbs, all your external and internal organs, and then you get your personhood back, you get your persona back, you get your individuality back, and you are a full-scale living being again. So that, and they are again two types. So the positive ones that are like gods, deities, angels in Western terms, and bad ones are like hungry ghosts. So that different types of negative spirits, and they are so they are the mind-made ones. They are the Upapatika, or those who have a spontaneous birth. Their body is created by their own mentality, mind. So they are mind-made bodies. They are transparent bodies. So those are the four types of, and whatever the type. But there has been ongoing argument, debates among Buddhist scholars themselves, whether moisture-born beings whether they have consciousness. So there's no clear answer. But what Buddha has said is so that maybe not all. So they have sensation. That's one, like an amoeba, right? When amoeba has the tendency of sexuality, like how to say, so that the procreation, that will lead to the procreation, and it splits into two parts, right? So there will be then two amoebas, and so that's again a biological process. But lots of living organisms, micro living organisms, and so that they know how to attack, they know how to invade, they know how to sustain themselves, they know how to survive. And so given their ability to survive, ability to sustain themselves, ability to invade, so that they may have a mind. But according to Buddha, however small a being is, it still has some consciousness. What actually happens is what is called this restricted function of consciousness. Now, for example, so that let's say a human being is dying, and now so that as due to a certain karma that occurs at the last thought moment, and then now he's going to get reborn, he's going to come back as a dog or a wildlife, as an animal. Then what happens? So upon death, and he would carry all his karma, all his habits, and all his how to say, memories into the new biology. But and then when the Bhavanga consciousness or the storehouse consciousness, Ale Vijnana or Bhavanga consciousness, which is no longer called Bhavanga, but the Gandhabba, and that consciousness, birth creating, rebirth causing consciousness pushes itself into the animal embryo. Then what happens is that as the fetus grows in the in the dog mother's womb, then what happens is now months later, and so that birth of that being occurs. It's a dog. Now its function is the function of its consciousness is biologically restricted now. Why? Because now it has integrated with an animal biology. So our biology can affect the function of our physical body, and so that as long as consciousness stays within the animal biology, and then consciousness would not be able to function the way it did when it was part of a human biology, a human body. Now, so the reproductive karma again is whatever the karma that occurs at the last thought moment, as a result of which that particular karma triggers or designs next comeback, next birth. Second one is supportive karma. Now, supportive karma is the kind of karma, that's Pali word is upattambaka. Now, supportive karma and reproductive karma and supportive karma they have to be of the same camp, same group, because what supportive karma does is that it helps reproductive karma sustain. And in case someone was born of a negative reproductive karma, having some birth defects, neurological problems, lots of problems, physical problems and emotional problems, and lots of sicknesses, and then as a result, and they put themselves on medication throughout their lifetime. And then let's say, suppose that is a result of negative reproductive karma. Then what happens? For example, so that they get sick all the time because the reproductive karma was negative and the design was wrong. Based on the karmic design, they have to face the reproductive karma. And then what happens as they continue to suffer from different illnesses, from different medical complications, with the emotional or biological, and then so that they are made to go through, they are made to go further and then continue their life with those complications, probably more complications, or at least the complications at the same level. And that's because reproductive karma is nurtured by the supportive karma. And the supportive karma comes to the rescue of reproductive karma. But as we explained that way, somebody might wonder whether these karma are like individuals. How could the supportive karma so helps reproductive karma sustain? But that's what Buddha says. The function of karma is very complex, and this is called this is called intrakarmic function. Now, why karma is complex, as Buddha says, because there is karma, there is intrakarmic function, and karma can positively or negatively affect one another, each other, by themselves or purposely. For example, when I said, like, you can plant new intentions, new karma, with which you can push certain karmas to the side in a way that they would not come to bother you. The newly created karma would save you. And so that's do that purposely. But at the same time, certain karma functions does that by themselves. And that is what the supportive karma does. And then, one example is like this. Let's say, you didn't sleep last night, and but you have to, as usual, you have to wake up. You happen to wake up in the morning to go to work, and you were like lifeless, so tired. But at the same time, as you have to go, and you were making your coffee, and then so that you are so you lack attention. As well as what happens is you, as you're making the coffee, you burn yourself, and then as you are drinking, and then you curse yourself. Then as you are, and with lots of struggle, you make your cup of tea or coffee. And when you are now drinking it, now that due to absence of mindfulness, you happen to drop the cup on the floor and you broke it into pieces. And then again, you are angry, maybe you are frustrated. And then what happens? Okay, never mind. And you get into your car, start driving. And you are very restless now. And then quite unconsciously, although you cut across somebody else, you cut across someone else's lane. And as a result of you almost had an accident. And then somehow, so as a result, there is a heated argument between you and the other driver. And as a result, what happens is, and then somehow, so that then you get going, cursing yourself, cursing the other driver, and then so you make very late to your workplace, and then everyone is staring at you. At the same time, there are clients lining up to see you. And at the same time, you earn a rat from your boss, and then so you ruin your all day. Then what happens? Because of lack of sleep, probably you never wanted to sleep. Instead, you decided to stick to something else, like watching a movie or something, knowing that you have to wake up early in the morning to go to work. But that first action, the result of that first action, so that invited or created the surroundings, created the grounds for some other actions to occur, and so that they nurtured, in Buddhist language, they nurtured the mainstream action. And that's one close analogy. That is something that similar happens here too, when the reproductive karma, whether it's negative or positive, and then it gets, there's a supportive karma comes to reproductive karma's rescue, and it nurtures reproductive karma. So the reproductive karma continue to run through the individual's consciousness. And then so that's reproductive, the karma support the reproductive karma as well as the effect of the reproductive karma throughout the lifetime of the individual. And number 3 is obstructive karma, that is upapedaka karma. Now, so if and when the reproductive karma is a positive one, as a result, you have had a good birth, and then so that your life is good, no problems. And then unlike the supportive karma, obstructive karma is represent the opposite. It is the opposite karma. If the reproductive karma is negative, then the obstructive karma is positive. And then if the negative reproductive karma is negative, the positive, and the obstructive karma is negative. Now, always what the obstructive karma does, it obstructs, it serves, it tries to block the reproductive karma. Let's say someone was born with of a good, wholesome, so that blissful reproductive karma. And as a result, you were born into a good family, and then you don't go through much trouble, and then life is all good. And all of a sudden, somewhere, one day in your life, and sometimes you happen to almost lose everything in your life, so that something start bothering you, and then so that it could be a certain obstructive karma that is now trying to overpower the reproductive karma. But the reproductive karma is so powerful. Why it is so powerful? Because that is your birth karma. So the obstructive karmas cannot completely destroy the birth karma or the reproductive karma. But obstructive karma can bother, distract, could try to block your reproductive karma. And you get the point here. And at the other way around, that the opposite is that someone was born in negative reproductive karma. And then all of a sudden, during their lifetime, a certain obstructive karma comes forth and start blocking the reproductive karma. Because so that reproductive karma is negative, the obstructive karma is giving that miserable person some chances, some opportunities, offers some fortune, offers some luck. So at that point, the obstructive karma is a positive one, the Kosala one, good one. So it has to be, it is always the opposite one. This karma weakens, interrupts, retards the function of the reproductive karma. That's the definition. And fourth one is destructive karma, upaghataka karma. This karma not only cuts off the effect of the reproductive karma, but also destroys the reproductive karma and produces its own effect. Now, most of the time, when someone dies very young, at prime youth, and the loved ones and friends, whosoever hears the death, would say, alas, that young man, young woman died very young. Probably she or he did bad karma. That's why they happen to leave this world that soon. That is the first impression of karma that we make. It might have been so that even though the person is very young and doing very well, and then when he was beginning his life, and he happened to die, and his life was taken away. Probably it must have been negative destructive karma. But actually, it is not. It may not be the negative destructive karma. It could also be a positive destructive karma as well. So that when it comes to because obstructive karma and destructive karmas are opposite of the reproductive karma, then someone may ask, why then destructive karma? Why then? Because that young person was doing very well, a lucky one, good family background, very genius, but his life was taken away, he happened to die quite unexpectedly very soon. Then if his reproductive karma was a positive one, good one, and at that point, arguably, then the destructive karma must be a negative one, not always. At times, certain destructive karmas are of the same camp as well, unlike the obstructive karma. Destructive karmas could be of the same camp, same type, or could be the opposite type. Because at that point, there's a difference between obstructive karma and destructive karma. So destructive karma could be a friendly karma or a karma that is opposite karma. Could be a friend, could be an enemy. And then probably that young man deserved a better life, better rebirth, probably heaven, or maybe even better human life in terms of material wealth, comfort, and all that. So as a result, a certain positive destructive karma so that completely destroyed the positive reproductive karma, and whereby the person has had to leave this lifetime, and so that he moved to different lifetime, different life form that is way better. So, and that is the how to say classification of karma with respect to function. Any questions pertaining to this? Okay. And next one with respect to the second.
Yes, Bhante.
Yes. Okay. Please go ahead.
What is there a Theravadan perception or the theory or Theravadan view on the Mahayana, and some of the Mahayana practice is that some conscious is going to be lingering around for 1 day, 2 days, 7 days, 49 days, things like that. What is the Theravadan view on that?
Yeah, Theravadan view on that is that immediately, immediately after consciousness disintegrate itself from the physical body, and there's no period during which it would wander around. Instead, it would it would get reborn right away. That's the Theravada view.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the Theravada view. But in Theravada Buddhist countries, people offer, they perform charity on the 7th day. And then I know in certain Mahayana societies, they do that in 49 days, as you said. And then so that always this timing is related to a period of time of those Gandhabas or those dead people wandering around looking for a suitable birth. I don't know how that that connection came into being, how that connection came into belief. Somehow, anyway, in Theravada Buddhism, you don't come across such a wandering period. The period of interim birth. Yes, thanks. And then with respect to the time of taking effect, there are 4 kinds of karma. First one is immediately effective karma, that is Ditta, Dhamma, Vedaniya karma. This is the karma that bears fruit in the present lifetime. Now, so this is Ditta, Dhamma, Vedaniya. Immediate effective karma means no sooner have you done this karma, it's as soon as you have done this karma, it begins to return the results to you, and it comes back to you. So this is called immediately effective karma. But again, I'm not in a position to say what type of karma is an immediately effective karma, because given the size, given the gravity, given the size, given the force of the particular karma, I'm not in a position to say that it can be an immediately effective karma. But maybe you can identify a certain, based on the situations, you could do that. I know one important story from Sri Lanka. I heard that story when I was in Sri Lanka in 2019, 2018, and then so there was this man who was always drunkard. He's drunk, and his hobby was to he would make a torch of fire with tree leaves and plants, dry leaves, and then so that it's a traditional torch of fire actually that we make in traditional. I mean, it's just in rural areas. His hobby was he would run after dogs, and then he would burn the dog's private parts with fire. This drunk, miserable man. That is the kind of karma he did. And that during his lifetime, he burned, put like 45 dogs on fire. And they, so that they died from their burns. And then, so that one day, when he was going home and he was really drunk, and then a young boy came from nowhere. He had the same thing, and then he was wearing a sarong, not pants. and then so that what happens, he inserted that torch of fire into his groin area underneath his sarong. And what happens was he started screaming, and then so that the first thing that happened to him was he got his private parts burnt, and as a result, and then his dress caught on fire, and then so that there was no one who came to his rescue, and then so hours of screaming, and then he was burned to death. Right. So that when I heard the story, see the kind of pattern there. What area of the dog's body that he burned? Private parts, groin area. That was his target whenever he tortured the dogs. Then so what part of his body he got on fire first, burned? His groin area, private parts. And then also you come up to some stories like when you hit a dog and you broke his leg, and then so that so sometime later, within days, and you have an accident, you break your leg. So sometimes you always understand. There's no technique. There's no way to understand what an immediate effective karma is, unless an enlightened person, because there are some people with supernatural, some extrasensory perception, and they could say whether it's an immediately effective karma or not. And for sure, the Buddha would be able to say that. Maybe one of you having that ESP, extrasensory perception, that ability, ESP ability could do so. But otherwise, in general, we would always compare two different situations. Well, the man burned the dog's private parts, and then so that he happened to go through the same destiny again one day. And so that and then in another story, another event I heard, and then so that from Indonesia, and there was this man, he was very, how to say, very uncivilized, and then he hated cats, and he would whenever he encountered cats, and he would pick a piece of stone, and then he would crush the cat's head to death. And then he would do that I mean so many times in his life. Then what happens was, when he was walking through a mountainous or hilly area, and there was this landslide, a huge piece of stone fell on his head, and then he got his head crushed, and as a result he died on the spot. So that's how people usually identify or have clear, or if not vague, idea of an immediate effective karma, ditta dhamma vedaniya. And so that I have come across such stories from different countries, and people always so define or determine an immediately effective karma based on the similar thing that someone did to someone else. And so the similar, and that someone who did that to many people would die in a similar situation. And then you shot someone, and then you got shot, and then you steal someone else's property, and then then you get robbed by someone else. And so that's how some idea, that's the probably the easier, the only way that ordinary people can see whether it's an immediately effective karma, ditta dhamma vedaniya. And so that so it happens within this lifetime. Ditta means seen, vedaniya means go through. You go through, you encounter, you face it within this lifetime. That's what the Pali phrase means, immediately effective. Immediately at this point, not immediately after the action is done. Maybe within a shorter period of time, and the longest, the latest would be before your death. You have to face that karma. And the second one, of this category is subsequently effective karma, upapajja vedaniya karma. This is the karma that bears fruit in the next or second life, during the life immediately after this one. The following 5 great sins bear fruit in the next lifetime, meaning during the lifetime immediately after this life, during which you committed those karma. I think we went through the list in our previous coursework in Augusta. So that at this point, now some people find it difficult to see, difficult to digest why the following 5 are great sins. So the first one is matricide, murder of mother; patricide, murder of father; the murder of an arahant, an enlightened being; shaking the blood of the Buddha; creating division among the Sangha. The third gem of the triple, this can only be committed by a fully ordained monk or a nun. Now, so that some people argue that these are more like cultural sins, but Buddha talks about them in a universal sense. Now remember, when so that from time to time, religious authorities declare different kind of sins. For example, Pope John Paul declared what is called environmental sins, and in one of the mandates, he mandated that those who destroy the nature, Mother Nature, and they are sinners. And then ever since he declared that, he made that declaration of environmental sins. And then some devout Catholics approached me and said, from Florida, they told me, Bhante, you know what, our Pope has declared that destroying the Mother Nature is a sin. I feel sorry, and I am guilty that yesterday I cut down some trees. And then people asked, my neighbors asked me not to fell those trees because they are beautiful and they would provide shade. But at the same time, I had another concern. They might fall onto my house anytime. So that's why I got rid of them. But now I am guilty that because of the new sin, I am guilty that I got rid of those trees. So unless the Pope has declared that, and there would be no such karma. And then, so this is called the religiously mandated karma. And then some people have asked me to see whether these 5 are such culturally declared or culturally oriented, or the religiously oriented karma, how to say, source of subsequently effective karma. But actually, when I look into some sutras, and then what I found is that when you commit one of these 5, actually you deprive and then so that you destroy life, especially mother. Mother is the one who gave you life. So it is ethically wrong, it is morally wrong to destroy the very source of your birth, that is mother. And so is your father. And I remember one of you asked me some question during the previous coursework, whether if you are an adopted son and you don't know your biological mother or your biological father, and at that point, so you didn't know, and somehow you happen to murder a certain woman whom you later found out to be your biological mother or your biological father. At that time, whether you have committed matricide or patricide. And then I asked a lot of other Buddhist scholars as well. Then at that point also, what happens is, if you know that it's your biological father that you are murdering, if you know that it's your biological father that you are murdering, at that point you know for sure that you are doing that. And as a result, right from right from the beginning, you are extremely guilty actually, because you are not supposed to, knowing that you are killing. But in the case of your biological mother, unknown to you, a biological father, unknown to you, until you have murdered them, and at that point, it may not be a subsequently effective karma because you didn't know that. If you knew, you would have never killed them. Right? So, and third one, all these five are taken in terms of it's an ethical value, and then you look at these five situations. The first three murders, and the fourth one is shaking the blood of the Buddha, and mother is one, especially someone who was abused by some people, someone who was abused by their mother, their father, have told me that they almost murdered their parents. They felt like killing their parents because of what they have done. And at that point, so in case they did, would they have committed matricide, patricide? But they would have. Why? Because it's a two different. That they were abused by their parents is a different sin, different bad karma that the parents themselves committed. But that doesn't mandate the murder of their parents, mother or father, and they would have committed, because they know for sure that they are killing their biological mother, they are murdering their biological father. And the murder of an arahant. An arahant is an enlightened person. He does no harm to the society. Of course, he remains a source of blessings to others. And so by murdering an arahant, an enlightened person, and then you deprive the rest of the world from benefiting from him. And he is no harmful. He makes no harm to the world. Actually, he is a blessing to the world. So that's why murder of an arahant is considered as a upapacha vedani, or subsequently effective karma. And number 6, shaking of the blood of the Buddha. Buddhas appear in the world after a long period. So that I think it's 2:45. Let's take a 15-minute break and see you at 3 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, will be. Yes. Patricide, murder of an arahant. And then just like someone murders their biological mother or father, not knowing that they are not knowing that they are their biological mother or father. At that point, so that at the moment they were carrying out the murder, and then there was no that they were not guilty, and then because they didn't know. And it is the same case when it comes to, and someone has had a question to that regard as well, murder of an arahant. And you kill an arahant, not knowing that he is an arahant. But I don't know whether I have or have not met arahants in my lifetime, because they wouldn't say that they are arahants. And then shaking the blood of the Buddha. Now, Buddha is not harmful to anyone. Actually, he's a source of blessings to the world. Now, just like in the case of an arahant, so by causing injury to Buddha's body, and thereby so that you try to block a source of a universal source of blessings to the world. That is why it is sinful. See,
Bhante,
yes.
is it sharing? I'm talking about a spelling.
Sorry, shaking.
Shaking or sharing?
Shaking actually, because yeah, thank you for asking me that. Is shaking the blood? Shaking means, according to how to say the description of the Buddha's physical body, and then it says nobody is able to break the Buddha's skin, but you can injure the skin so that there could be blood underneath. So it doesn't cause bleeding. So shaking here means there's no bleeding occurring. Bleeding doesn't occur, and this internal bleeding occurs. Because of the internal bleeding is called shaking the blood, not shedding the blood.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. So and then see who did shake the Buddha's, who caused injury to Buddha's body? It was a monastic, right? Devadatta. You know that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's the bruises. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least I use it's a proper word, bruises. So that Devadatta was a monastic, and he is the one who tried to kill the Buddha so that he would take over the position. And then and he couldn't. He was qualified to become enlightened, but he didn't do that. But finally, moments before his death, it is said, according to Devadatta's biography, he screamed, "Buddham saranam gacchami," I take refuge in the Buddha. And the last, so that close to his last thought moment, he understood the grave mistake, grave sin he committed. And Buddha later told, because he finally understood his mistake, his sin, and then one day, otherwise he was he was the one who had trouble with the Bodhisattva Gautama for many lifetimes. Somehow during this lifetime, and then he got intoxicated with power, and he was jealous with the Buddha. And Devadatta was none other than Buddha's lay life wife Yashodhara, right? And so Devadatta Yashodhara's brother. And that's why right from even Devadatta is mentioned as a samsaric enemy of Buddha. But, and that's one thing we can know also, when you have enemies, don't let them know that you will never ever you will never meet them again in samsara. In case they know that you made that resolution, trust me, they will make another resolution to come after you. So that's something that we need to think about here. So that, yeah. And then when up to number 5, creating division among the Sangha. This can only be committed by a fully ordained monk. Yes. This can be committed only by a monastic, not by lay people. Lay people are not, they can still create, they can still divide the Sangha. They can still create division among the Sangha. But still, that doesn't amount to an immediately effective karma, because you have to be an insider. Now, as a layperson, because when the monastic himself or herself does that, and then it has a direct impact on the Sangha, because he is part of the Sangha. And so that as he remains in robe, and he can set how to say a bad precedent and also wrong impression, and so that as he continue to remain in the sangha, and that means automatically he would have his followers may grow, and as a result he would continue to do harm to the sangha. So that is why so that a lay person cannot commit the fifth one.
Bhante,
Yes.
so essentially Devadatta also commit the fifth one, creating division among Sangha during his lifetime.
Exactly. He committed two. Yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. He committed two immediately effective karmas. He did shake the Buddha's, he caused injury to the Buddha's skin. And then he committed the fifth one as well. When he divided the Sangha, who got the bigger group? Devadatta did. Devadatta got the bigger group, and so that's when, so that is considered the greatest ever division of the Sangha. So that ever to happen during the Buddha's time. I mean, according to Buddhist history as well. So,
Bhante,
yeah.
there is a second. There's a follow up on that. So now, essentially, Devadatta commit two subsequently effective dark karma. So both of them happen to be bear fruit on the next life.
Yes.
So how does it affect his next life? Is it both of the karmic effect on his life at the same time, or is it greater because of the bad deed, or because the unwholesome act? So how does it affect?
Yeah, great question. And later Buddha talked about that. When Devadatta died, you know that according to the Devadatta's biography, that when he wanted to, when he was going to bathe in a body of water like a pond or a lake, and then as he stepped out of his monastery, and then so the earth, there was a crater that popped up on the earth, and he was dragged into the crater, and that's when, and he says, okay, he went to the deepest ever hell, where he would suffer for an indefinite period of time. And then simply because he made the resolution, he understood his mistake the last moment, one day, having suffered, so in the deepest hell, that is called Avicii Niraya, Avicii hell, and then so that he will suffer there for a long period of time, because he committed two. Just to answer your question, he committed two of these immediately effective karmas. So his suffering, his misery would continue for a long time, because he committed two. And then one day he will come back to humanity, and then so that one day he will achieve his enlightenment as a Pacceka Buddha one day.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. So the next one is indefinitely effective karma. Now, at this point, there is no particular, nobody is able to determine when this type of karma is going to return results. This karma is the karma that bears fruit from the third lifetime till the last life, when the doer realizes nirvana. Now, that's the timeline. It's a long timeline. From the third, why from the third lifetime? In case you committed karma that bears fruit from the third lifetime to the last time when the doer realizes nirvana. So that from the third lifetime itself, so that it could come back to you. It could return anytime, any moment. That is called until the moment you realize nirvana. That's called aparapariya, third one. And the fourth one is defunct karma. Now this is one of the interesting karmas, defunct karma. Now ahosi literally means defunct. This is the karma that no longer bears fruit. It is because such karma gets no chance due to the fact that the doer has already realized nirvana and passed away. Now, even Buddha, even enlightened people are subject to karma. Because, and when you read in the Buddha's biography, Buddha Gautama's biography, at times he had a severe headache, he got back pain. And later on he was, when he was asked, when he was asked by Venerable Ananda, his personal attendant, whether Buddha could suppress that, and Buddha said, with the paramita energy, so that Buddha could suppress any suffering, but you could suppress the suffering by determination, but the pain would continue to be there. Meaning, so that Buddha became enlightened. I mean, Bodhisattva became enlightened during in his final life, but his body, his physical body is still subject to karma. Why? His physical body has nothing to do with his enlightenment. It was created in part by his karma, by his parental genes, and then so that his physical body is subject to karma. So that's why even after his enlightenment, Buddha also happened to face certain karma. And then what happened to the Buddha's remaining karmas? Well, when he passed away as an enlightened ones pass away, die in a way that they would never come back to samsara. And they get their consciousness dissolved, no more trouble in samsara. And so that because they don't come back to life, and then all the remaining karma becomes defunct. So this is the karma that no longer bears fruit, ahosi karma. And then you could have so that there's no time, there was no chance. The remaining karma stand no chance to come into fruition. Yeah, that's right. So all karma gets to be written off. Yeah, because there's no coming back to life. So that and Devadatta would one day become Pacceka Buddha. The Pacceka Buddhas are in terms of enlightenment. Well, by the way, when it comes to these three grounds of enlightenment, according to Theravada Buddhism, so now the only difference among an all enlightened Buddha, a Pacceka Buddha, and Arahant is there are special knowledge, special capacities. Otherwise, so it's like in order to be the commander of the army or the navy or the air force, right? First you need to be a soldier. Right? Then you climb up ranks, and you can become the commander. So, and based on special skills. So, what makes Buddha different from a Pacceka Buddha is, and an Arahant, Buddha is, so then, let's start with the lowest one. Now, an Arahant is as enlightened as a Pacceka Buddha and Samma Sambuddha. But all are enlightened. But an Arahant is much less than a Samma Sambuddha, much less than a Pacceka Buddha, because Arahant depends on an all-enlightened Samma Sambuddha. He has to keep waiting for the arrival of a Samma Sambuddha in the world to listen to him and then to get himself enlightened. At that point, an Arahant relies on an all-enlightened Samma Sambuddha. Whereas, even though an Arahant is capable of helping others with the realization of nirvana, whereas a Pacceka Buddha is not able to do that. At that point, still, a Pacceka Buddha is higher than an Arahant, because unlike an Arahant, a Pacceka Buddha enlightened all by himself, just like Samma Sambuddhas. And so at that point, given the manner, an Arahant and a Pacceka Buddha achieve enlightenment, a Pacceka Buddha is higher than an Arahant. But again, they are different in terms of their special talents, qualities, and knowledges, and service capacity, I would like to say. And then a Samma Sambuddha is the highest because he's the pioneer. He rediscovered the truth that remained covered by ignorance of the worldlings, and until he appears in the world and rediscover the truth that had been rediscovered by past Buddhas on numerous occasions, and then so the world would remain in the dark of ignorance. At that point, and then soon after Buddha's enlightenment, he made having ordained all his first 60, all his first 60 disciples became Arahants. And then he added himself to the list, and so that there was 61, and then he made this statement, Aham hi Araha Loke. I am also an Arahant in the world. So Buddha is an Arahant, Pacceka Buddha is an Arahant, and Arahant is an Arahant. I think you might find it a little confusing or maybe interesting. An Arahant is an Arahant, a Pacceka Buddha is an Arahant, a Buddha is an Arahant. What Buddha, the very first knowledge, the very first skill that Buddha achieved was, first he destroyed all his defilements. And that is what Arahant means. That you become an Arahant in Pali terms means you destroy all your defilements. So meaning you are enlightened now. But again, based on special skills, talents, and knowledges, it makes a difference among these three. And in order to, so that the higher the number of skills that you want to acquire, to equip yourself with, so that you can serve, so that you can not only enlighten yourself, you enlighten others as well. It takes much longer for you to complete the paramitas. So, and that's what it makes different. So otherwise, Buddha is an Arahant too. Just like an army commander is a soldier. A soldier is a soldier. Brigadiers are soldiers. The army commander who commands the entire army is a soldier. They are all soldiers, but at the same time, a soldier and a commander is a soldier, a brigadier is a soldier, colonel is a soldier, a lieutenant is a soldier, and a corporal is a soldier, a normal private is a soldier is a soldier. Likewise, a Buddha is an Arahant, a Pacceka Buddha is an Arahant is an Arahant. Arahant literally means total extirpation or destruction of defilements. Total extirpation or destruction of defilements. And so that you totally, you stop creating new karma. and then so that you have no interest in coming back to samsara. You stop creating new karma. And also most of the past karmas you suppress. And they wouldn't come back to. Because in order for you to, for certain karma to return to you, you must be emotionally weak, emotionally, when you are emotionally stronger, when you are very stable, when your peace of mind is stable, and most of the bad karmas would not come into fruition. But at this point, I would like to say that when you are emotionally fragile, psychologically weaker, even a small karma now returning could have a bigger impact on your life, whether it's a good, when it's a negative one. For example, it's like some people are scared of needles, whereas some people get closer, get as much closer to they get as much closer to a tornado as possible, and even take and videotape the tornado. And they get as much closer to a volcanic eruption as possible and take pictures, not scared. Whereas some, they are even scared of needle. And then, so when you are emotionally weaker, down, mentally down, even the needle pain could have an effect, force that is as big as that of a volcanic eruption or a tornado. At the same time, other way around, when you are emotionally much stronger, even a certain grave karma, a mighty karma, would have a little impact on your life. Why? Because your mind is much stronger. You are emotionally much stronger. So that is when again, and we can go back to the idea of karma in deterministic view and a Buddhist view. Now, according to deterministic view, determinism, karma cannot be altered, and once you create, you cannot make any changes to that. Whereas in Buddhism, being a non-deterministic belief, and then so that you can plan, as we have repeatedly mentioned, you can plan new intentions, new intentions, thereby creating new karma. And at the same time, in order to do that, as you do that, also you can just the next way, provided that you are emotionally or psychologically stronger, because everything is overrun by the mind. That's the first line of the first verse in the Dhammapada. Right? It's all mind. So that being said, second one, proximate karma, that is called asana karma. This karma is remembered just before death. It therefore affects our last thought moment, Chutta-citta. Chutta-citta decides where a dying person must be reborn. In other words, it conditions the next life. Now, this is the proximate karma, asana karma. Now, so we can prepare, especially in Buddhist societies. I know in Sri Lanka we have this, all the generations keep this book. It's called Book of Merits. I think my grandma had one. My grandmother had such a book of merits or wholesome actions, because you list, just like you keep a diary, you list all the good things that you have done for the lifetime. And then so towards old age, or whenever you feel like you are so sick, so ill that you may not last that much long, and then what you do is on a regular basis, you go through the pages of your book of merits, wholesome actions. So that in Sinhalese it's called pin pota. Pin comes from punya. Punya meaning merit. Pota comes from Pali word pottaka, or Sanskrit word pustaka. Punya pustaka, or punya pottaka, meaning pimpota, book of merits. Even today in some areas in Sri Lanka, especially rural Sri Lanka, and then so this devout ardent Buddhists, and they keep writing, they continually fill the pages of their book with new good karmas that they create. And they go through them again and again. They revisit while they rekindle their memories, and then go through the pages, and then they revision. They have a vision of the good things that they have done. The purpose of that is to program their habit, so their proximate karma, and so that thereby trying to have a peaceful death, never be getting scared of death, and then they invite and they wish, they aspire to use their proximate karma at the last thought moment. So that is proximate karma. Asanna. Asanna means close to, approximate. And nobody is able to see, given the size of that karma, nobody is able to say whether it's going to be approximate karma. But one clue is that, you get one clue from the canon itself, whatever the karma that meditates upon regularly, whatever the karma that you revisit regularly, and that particular karma could be approximate karma. Why? As we said earlier, because frequent revisiting of that karma, or frequent meditation on that karma, keeps that particular karma closer to the surface level of your consciousness, so that it could serve as it's called magnet karma. That's the magnet karma. So, and it can attract, it can have some, it can impact the last thought moment, because when the last thought moment is now occurring, this particular karma will take over, and so that it would trigger the next birth. That would condition the next life. But again, I would like to say, Bodhisattvas, some have this how to say, past past proximate karma, meaning you have practiced a certain karma, probably as a paramita, or many lifetimes before, and so that it could be your it could be a kind of karma that saved you during last thought moment of many lifetimes before. Usually it happens in the case of Bodhisattvas, because when you are very firm in your Bodhisattva path, and then you don't, so that, by the way, Bodhisattva path is, as you know, let's say we did talk about those three grounds of enlightenment, and a Samma Sambuddha, somebody aspiring to be a Samma Sambuddha is a Bodhisattva. Someone aspiring to be a Pacceka Buddha is a Bodhisattva. Someone who aspires to be an Arahant is a Bodhisattva. But usually, in general, in mainstream Mahayana Buddhism, a bodhisattva is someone who aspires to be an only enlightened Buddha. Whereas in Theravada Buddhism, there are these three types of bodhisattvas: Arahant bodhisattvas, Pacceka bodhisattvas, and Samma Sambuddha bodhisattvas. And whichever the ground, they are called Buhumis. Buhumi in Sanskrit. Especially you come across the Buhumi in Sanskrit Mahayana texts. In Theravada text, you use the term Bodhi. There are three Bodhis, or there are three Buhumis. There are three grounds, that is Bhumi. There are three Bodhis. There are three modes of enlightenment, Bodhisattva. So whichever the Bodhisattva, and then a more clear definition of these three types of Bodhisattva paths are well explained in one of the latter-day Pali texts called the Sampinda Maha Nidhana. Now, one of the professors from the University of Kelani, Venerable Dr. Mahinda, so he translated, I think he edited, it remained on Ola leaves, palm, it was a palm leaf manuscript. And then so he put it into book form and edited, and that's available in Pali and Pali with a Sinhalese translation. And it is yet to be translated into English. I tried my best, but the book is too big. I'm too busy. And I need to settle myself academically, and so that I should be able to translate that. But anyway, I read the Pali text according to, and that is a masterpiece. It's not canonical. It's more like a commentary. And it is a masterpiece of the Bodhisattva paths, the three types of Bodhisattvas as taught in Theravada Buddhism, Pali Buddhism, the Sampinda Maha Nidhana. Now, the last one is so habitual karma. Now this is what it is. Habitual karma then. Now, habitual karma is a type of karma that you commit, that you make, that you perform on a regular basis. Habitual karmas. And then so that at times, habitual karmas have your past habit. Your past habits could impact. That's because of habitual karma. That's because of your past experience. And at times, habitual karma is such that in the case it is a negative one, bad one, and already knowing that is not, that you are not supposed to repeat it, but you still do repeat. It's because of your habit. It's good to have positive habitual karma. But in the case that it is a negative habitual karma, like an unwholesome habitual karma, and so that it's called, this karma is considered a disastrous karma. Why? Disaster, in the case if it's a negative habitual karma, you already know that you are not supposed to do that again, but you continue because you have been in the habit of doing that for a long time, and it's more like a chronic karma. So this is habitual, means like achinna karma. It's a chronic karma, and you continue to commit that, make that. But it's good to perform positive habitual karma, so that it would bring you some good results. So this is performed regularly, or it may be a karma that is performed once and is recollected and remembered. Another thing is it. That's the second point. It becomes a habitual karma because of two reasons. First, you perform it regularly again and again. Second reason why it's called habitual karma, you make it that you perform that only once, And then what happens is you recollect that, you remember that, you revisit that again and again. So that's why it's called a habitual karma. Now, it's always good to, adopt good karmic habits. For example, so that when you transform a certain karma into a habitual karma, so that's when, say, you haven't done, you have done lots of, bad things as a habit. And at that point, you are encouraged not to revisit those bad habitual karmas. Why? Every time you revisit, recollect, meditate on that, you enhance them so that it becomes more and more habitual. Whereas if you commit, if you may perform that good habitual karma only once, then you may meditate on that, recollect, revisit that every time possible, so that thereby you plant a good karmic habit in your consciousness, and you can carry that karmic habit beyond this lifetime to another one also. So that's how, and this habitual karma has a connection with paramita. Now, Bodhisattvas are in the habit of repeating the good karma, but actually to them, they don't expect any, good results from their good action. And in case a Bodhisattva commits a bad karma, and then so that he would make a resolution not to repeat it. And in case if and when they do a good karma, and then they don't expect good results from that karma. And because why? They have no expectation, because they are selfless. And if you expect results from a good karma, then what? As a result, you develop, and you develop some attachment. You're not supposed to do that. So, that is why Bodhisattvas do karma. And that's when that was made the difference between same good action. For example, now, you do good things, perform charity, help others, practice charity, dana, and then meditate. And your purpose is to walk away from the samsara as soon as possible. So your purpose is to achieve a certain bhumi, and meaning could be an arahant, or a pacheka buddha, or a samma sambuddha. And so that your purpose is not to get something back, because you don't have, your purpose is not worldly. You don't expect anything in return. So that your action, your karma is therefore a paramita, because you don't expect anything in return from the good karma that you commit. As you do that just to train yourself, just to reduce your attachment, so that you would be more and more capable of letting go of attachments that would otherwise keep you tied to the samsara. Whereas in my case, I am doing the same thing. Let's say you and I together performing an act of charity, but my purpose is to come back in a better form, acquire more luxuries, to have more comfort, more joy, more happiness, more sukha. The next in the next life. At that point, my action does not produce paramita, and then my karma therefore is not paramita. My karma simply therefore is punya, or simply merit. So at that point, it remains as a merit, or punya, and it never gets upgraded to paramita. Now, when you make a resolution of non-attachment, you automatically get your karma, good karma, upgraded to a paramita. Otherwise, it remains on the same level, So that as long as you are in the samsara, so the good karma would come back to you, bring you comfort, sukha, luxury, and all that. But at the same time, there's one risk involved, as Buddha says. When you expect something in return, you may or may not get it because you are anxious, because you expect the best out of the good karma you earn, and there's no guarantee that you get the best. For example, having helped people, having performed charity, and then you expect to go to heaven. But there's no way to judge, there's no way to determine that you go to heaven. There's no guarantee that you go to heaven. Perhaps one thing is guaranteed for sure, that you may not go. Why? Because of anxiety. And that anxiety never occurs to those who upgrade their karma as paramita. Because in paramita, when you transform, if the term upgrade is not, it's like a commercial term. So if you transform your karma, good karma, into a paramita by never expecting anything in return, but simply aspiring but simply wishing that you don't need anything in return, and you are simply doing that just to reduce your expectations, your ambitions, your desire to come back, bhavaraga, and as a result, you never get anxious, and that would save you at the last thought moment too. So that is called habitual karma. And the next one is unspecified karma, katatta karma. This is the kind of karma done once and soon forgotten. Any karma can be an unspecified karma, even if you forget it. It will bring results. If the unspecified karma is a Vedic karma, it will produce its result at death and condition the next life, even if it is forgotten. A karma is forgotten does not mean it does not bring results. Even though we simply forget it, it will remain in our consciousness and may bring results whenever possible. Now, this would take us back to the description of Vedic karma, Garuka karma, under which we discuss matricide, patricide, murder of an arahant, shaking the blood of the Buddha, and creating division among the Sangha. Now, say that a certain karma is done once and never repeated and soon forgotten. At that point, so it is an unspecific, but it will remain in our consciousness. It can bring us results any moment. But at this time, even though it's Vedic karma, it can produce some results in this very lifetime, or it can produce results in the very next life. And it could, even though we have forgotten that, even though it is long forgotten. But at that time, even if it's a grave karma, let's say someone murdered his biological father, knowing that it was his biological father, their biological father. And then, so he didn't care. He didn't care about moral judgments, morality, ethics. So at that point, even though he has already forgotten, and he didn't care that he murdered his parents or mother or father. But still, and that would not, that doesn't mean that it would not come back. It will come back during this lifetime, given the nature of that. Or it could be an anantariya karma, that is called immediately effective karma. Or it could be a Vedic karma. Let's say it's a Vedic karma, that someone murdered their father or the mother, and then he didn't care and he forgot that. But still, he would go to that he would go into misery immediate upon his death during the next life itself. So now this is an explanation of what is called karma. Now, any questions? Any other questions? If you have any questions, we can have some questions here pertaining to this description, so that we can, even though we are done with this handout, so we will continue. So if you have questions, let me stop sharing this one, and then we need to share another document that we did. 1 second. I need to pull out another document. Okay, the same one that we did last time. So, what the Buddha taught, Rahula's book. Let's see, share the screen. Okay, we need to go back here, in here. So, did it pop up on your screen?
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah. That's okay. Because meditation. Let's use the rest of the time to discuss meditation, because meditation is supposed to be one of the topics in chapter. But I didn't originally include that in the syllabus. I did that somewhere in our schedule. But this is a good, because this is quite relevant to today's discussion. So this chapter number 7, meditation of mental culture, bhavana, because bhavana is a technique that we can use to enhance our karma, and it really helps to why I thought I should have a discussion on meditation today. 2 reasons. First, karma in Buddhism is not deterministic, as taught or believed in, as depicted in Jain scripture, and it is not theistic, because no God, there's no higher power, there's no cosmic power that overpowers, that controls that controls karma. And the noise is very different than the third one also. So that fatalism. So that fatalism doesn't believe in karma. And karma, unlike that in Jainism, or according to determinism, it can be enhanced, it could be replaced, or it could be pushed to the sides by planting new karma. In order to do that, we need meditation. And personally speaking, I have come across lots of prisoners, inmates in different countries, especially in America, where I have done prison counseling. And then over time, criminals, they are able to overcome or to reduce, sharply reduce their criminal mindedness. And at the same time, they are able to reduce the guilt out of their crimes. It's all because of meditation. So thanks to meditation. At this time, have I ever, what's that? Go to at the chat. Okay, the chat box is disappeared. Can someone send me a text, please? And that would pop up. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thanks. Oh, it's under more. Right. So Dhamma Brothers. I think I have the video that I converted from YouTube. Dhamma Brothers is a film, it's a movie, documentary on how a group of inmates in the Alabama prison system, I think it happens like 20 years ago, Alabama prison system, they heard about meditation, Buddhist meditation, mindfulness. And so that what they did was, they somehow managed to get some scripture, some literature, and then they would form a group of meditators among themselves. And then they would meditate, and they would never happen to see a Buddhist monk or a nun or any spiritual person who knows Buddhism. And then what did was, they learned it by, they were so eager to learn meditation, and so that soon they would become very popular within the prison system, within the, I think it's Alabama prison system, as Dhamma Brothers. That's the title of the movie, the documentary, Dhamma Brothers. And then so that later on, so the Alabama government would fund this mindfulness project, this prison mindfulness project. But somehow there was agitation from some of the different religious groups, because they never wanted to have a Buddhist meditation within the Alabama state prison system. Somehow later they stopped funding. The fund was cut, but still, and they never expected funding, and they would simply continue their meditation, run their meditation group within the prison system. And then according to that document, there's actually, first it was the book that was published, and based on the book, someone produced that video, that documentary. So anyway, so I watched the video many times. What I'm going to say here is, the point here is, when some inmates, when some prisoners were qualified to so that walk back into society, into freedom, when they got parole granted, and they were not willing to leave the prison system. Why? Because they were so, they found the prison environment, prison surroundings so fascinating, so applicable to their, so helpful, so supportive of their meditation project. They never wanted to go on, and then some even refused to walk out of the prison because they wanted to meditate. And then I think I will try to upload that on Slack, or I will give you the link. Anyway, it's free, it's available on YouTube as well. I always, that's why when I love that one, because that can give you that document would give you a clear-cut understanding of how meditation, or as Venerable Rahula says, mental culture. When you develop mental culture, your inner culture, your meditation, and that would help you to enhance your karmas, and that meditation would help you to deal with some past good bad karma, and then you would be able to enhance new good karma, and you would be able to clear your mind in a way that you should be able to plant new intentions, and that is some applied stuff. Now, Venerable Rahula's bhavana here. Let's say how he explains bhavana. The Buddha said, "Oh, because there are two kinds of illness. What are those two? Physical illness and mental illness. There seems to be people who enjoy freedom from physical illness, even for a year or two, even for 100 years or more. But to bhikkhus, rare in this world are those who enjoy freedom from mental illness, even for one moment, except those who are free from mental defilements, except arahants." The Buddha's teaching, particularly his way of meditation, aims at producing a state of perfect mental health, equilibrium, and tranquility. It is unfortunate that hardly any other section of the Buddha's teaching is so much misunderstood as meditation, both by Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike. The moment the word meditation is mentioned, one thinks of an escape from the daily activities of life, assuming a particular posture, like a statue in some cave or cell in a monastery, in some remote place cut off from society, and musing on or being absorbed in some kind of mystic or mysterious thought or trance. True Buddhist meditation deteriorated and degenerated into kind of ritual or ceremony among almost technical in its routine. I think Venerable Rahula is very critical of the way meditation is practiced across Buddhist cultures, because I personally know that too. Because now, in popular Buddhism, in actually Buddhist texts also, we come across three types of three essentials of practice, called three essentials of practice. So that is dana, that is charity, and then sila, that is morality, and bhavana, that is meditation. These are called the three essentials of Buddhist practice. While by practicing charity, you reduce your attachment, and you also enjoy a moment looking at the people who are on the receiving end of your charity, your donation, and looking at them and see that how whatever as they are so happy to receive, very happy to see something from you, and so can you be when you receive something, when you are on the receiving end of someone's help. So and that is called charity. That is in order to reduce attachment, and also to reduce to value the value of your value of your achievements. And when you get something, and so that and you know how valuable it is, how happy it is to receive something, get something, acquire something, and that is very happiness that you offer to someone else by means of that material donation or monetary donation, or maybe your verbal donation. You make someone happy, and so that is to reduce your attachment. That's what you give away. Second one is sila, because when you are guilty, you find it difficult to have peace of mind, because because guilt can take you over, and so that can guilt can deprive you of inner peace. And so that is when you, in order to observe, in order to have guilty-free mind, you practice sila. And sila, by the way, sila literally means cooling down, or the cool nature. So the purpose of sila is to help yourself calm down, cool down. When you are stressed out, and then when you are guilty, you feel like you are sitting on burning charcoal, as Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh says. That Vietnamese teacher from France, Plum Village, is one of the best known teachers. I respect him so much. And according to Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, he says that when people are guilty, when people have a sense of wrongdoing, and they would feel like they are sitting on the burning charcoal. He's using this Western analogy, burning charcoal, or in Asian analogy, it's like you are sitting on a burning fire, and your life is on fire. Your life is on fire means your heart is on fire, meaning you are emotionally burning. You are burning inside, burning within. That's because of your guilt. So that's why the sila is recommended. Second one. So, and then by practicing charity, you prepare yourself To embark upon a journey into enlightenment, so that because attachments are the hardest to deal with, because and so that you need to start your journey by reducing your attachment by through charity. That's why you share. And then and at the same time you need to have the necessary moral surroundings, ethical surroundings, actually social surroundings. When you know that, when everyone knows that you are never guilty because your social behavior is good and you behave very good, and so that you are not doing any harm to anyone, so that you are acceptable because of your moral character. And so it is the sila that gives you that moral character, and that's your ethical surroundings. And then third one is meditation, and that is the third one. So now I was going to say that even though there are meditation is an essential of Buddhist practice, as Venerable Rahula complains here, and then nowadays in Buddhist societies, meditation is largely a ritual. It's more like a ritualistic. For example, if you meditate for like 2 hours, you dedicate too much time for chanting or a talk on too much guidance, too much of guided meditation. And then it's okay to get guided. You need the company of a teacher. But when meditation is ritualistic, it loses its value. That's what Rahula is complaining about in here. So he said the deteriorated. So the true Buddhist meditation deteriorated and degenerated into a kind of ritual or ceremony, almost technical in its routine. It should not, meditation should not be technical. When it is technical, you may not be able to create that inner surroundings in order for you to plant new paramitas if you walk your Bodhisattva path, or if you want to enhance, if you want to block bad karma coming into fruition, or if you want to you are going through some bad karma and you need to push them to the sides, you need to replace them. So that in order to do that, you need to have the inner mental surroundings clear, so that you can start planting. It's like groundbreaking, and then preparing the grounds for vegetation, planting, farming, and then you sow the seeds, and then can see the crop growing, and then you can get the harvest. Likewise, you need through meditation, you create that inner surroundings in order for you to modify or to push the bad karmas to the side, or to plant new intentions, so that there will be new karmas being created. So that in order to do that, meditation is not supposed to be technical, as Venerable Rahula says here. Now, this is the definition of meditation that you come across in the Majjhima Nikaya. Majjhima Nikaya. So that appiyang me manapang. I think you don't need the Pali phrase, because appiyang me manapang. Now you walk to a quiet place. Now this is the simple way of meditating. So appiyang me manapang. Now there's a pleasant feeling that has arisen in my mind. Appiyang me amanapang. There's an unpleasant feeling that has arisen in my mind right now. Appiyang me manapam, meaning there's this feeling that is a blend, that is a combination of pleasant and unpleasant feeling, or a feeling that is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, or a feeling that is neutral, or a feeling that I am not able to define. for sure it is not pleasant, it's not unpleasant either. And there is such a feeling that has arisen in my mind. And then what happens? Then you say to yourself, Tanchako agantukang. But that feeling is caused by some causes and conditions. Agantukang means due to, because of, so it is due to some perception that I grasped. It is due to something that I observed from in the external world. And then so because I observed something, I saw something that is very pleasant to my ears. I heard something that is pleasant to my eyes. Then I heard something that is pleasant to my ears, and I experienced some smell that is pleasant to my nose. I tasted something that is pleasant to my palate, and I touched something that is pleasant, that gave some pleasant feelings to my skin. And at the same time, so now, okay, that is why that pleasant feeling is. So, and then you simply understand the very nature of that feeling. What created that? What made that? So at that point also, you use the what is called causal approach to mental cultivation. Causal approach to mental. Causal at this point means like paticca samuppada, the approach of interdependent origination. Because what you immediately see, not the pleasant feeling or the unpleasant feeling itself, but what you see is the very nature of that feeling. When the feeling is pleasant, when a pleasant feeling is occurring in your mind, and you don't simply get motivated or get elated by that feeling. But you do it, and you simply trace the roots of that pleasant feeling. When you trace the root of that pleasant feeling, and you may not expect to retain that, you may not expect that feeling to remain in your mind longer. And you can avoid that struggle. Remember, we were talking about a kind of struggle that whenever there's a pleasant feeling, you want to retain that like forever. Whereas whenever there's an unpleasant feeling, you feel like getting rid of that right away. And what happens is, whereas you struggle to keep that, retain that pleasant feeling longer, and it disappears, it vanishes faster, it goes away, it disappears faster. And as you struggle to get rid of that unpleasant feeling right away, it stays longer. Why? Because you are already negative towards that negative feeling. And then what happens, you with negative energy, so that your negative mindedness feeds that negative feeling or that unpleasant feeling. So that's why it stays longer. But again, why then that pleasant feeling disappears faster? It's because, again, you are anxious. You are anxious about that pleasant feeling, because you become restless as to whether that pleasant feeling would be gone very soon. And as a result, then what happens? And then, as I said, sukha leads to dukkha. Sukha, joy, takes you to dukkha. Dukkha, needless to say, takes you to dukkha. It could be a pleasant feeling. It could be an unpleasant feeling. Eventuality, the typical eventuality is that you end up being sad. Whereas when you use the causal approach, like instead of when you see that feeling, whether pleasant or unpleasant, or whether neutral, whether a combination of both pleasant and unpleasant, or a feeling that is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, then what happens? Because you are using the causal approach, and then you have a subtle happiness that is a pleasant feeling, because a pleasant feeling can positively affect your physical body. It can have positive neurotic impact on your physical body. So that that pleasant feeling can give you some physical happiness as well. And then that, needless to say, that negative unpleasant feeling can negatively affect your biology, your body. But that happens because you fail to see those three types of feelings, whatever it is, as they are. How to see the true nature of feelings, the true nature of feeling, whatever it is just to use the causal approach. You simply see the cause, what created the cause behind, the reason behind your feeling. And when you identify the feeling, and what actually happens is, then you get your mind immediately freed from that struggle. Because why? You don't struggle to keep that pleasant feeling longer. And then you know that it is natural. And then so that Majjhima Nikaya continues to explain that, well, now there's this pleasant feeling arisen that has arisen in my mind, and there's this unpleasant feeling that has arisen in my mind, and there it is a feeling that is neither pleasant nor unpleasant, or a feeling that is a combination of both, or and then different than the first two that has arisen in my mind. And then you say to yourself, Tanchako agantukang, and that feeling is relative to a situation that I grasp, that I observe with my sense faculties. Meaning at that point, either because you heard something pleasant or unpleasant, or you saw something pleasant or unpleasant, and then you tasted something pleasant or unpleasant, you smelled something pleasant or unpleasant, or you felt the touch, you touch with your skin something that is pleasant, unpleasant, or neither. And so that is agantuka, means due to a situation in the external world, due to perception, those feelings occur. So, and at that point you trace the root, trace the birth or the origin of those feelings, agantukang, and upakilesan. And the next word is, they come. Those feelings occur due to our perception, sensory perception. And then what happens? And they are not permanent because they are relative. Their existence is relative, and so that is why they are gone right away, and those feelings disappear. So that all arikang, and this word is all arika. You don't need the whole Pali phrase, but this one is very important. All arika. That is from that statement, that definition. All arika means with no substance. Like we heard from that Mahayana, Sanskrit Mahayana Sutras, that things don't have dravya, right? Dravya. That is the Sanskrit word dravya, meaning substance. Things don't have permanent substance. So things don't contain a permanent substance because their birth, their origin is relative to other conditions. Because of causes and conditions, they are there. They are born. When the relativity falls apart, they are going to, and so that sutra is the dravya. But here, olarika means fragile, meaning fragile, not firm, fragile, not firm, containing no essence. Containing no essence, no substance. Now, this is how meditation is. This is the shortest to me and the sweetest and the simplest definition of meditation. And anyone can do that. For example, you are just after a tired day, long hectic day, and so as a result, and then when you get back into other activities after this class, sometimes maybe you are going to see someone, or maybe someone comes over, or probably you're going to have a chat, or probably you're going to watch some TV or movie or listen to some music. And at the same time, you may not, even though it's your favorite piece of music, and you are not going to enjoy that. Why? Because your mind is not ready for that. even if you listen to that beautiful piece of music, that is your signature piece of music, and today you are not going to enjoy that. You are not enjoying that. Why? You are not mentally, you are not emotionally ready to listen to that. Even if you do that because of a habit, and you wouldn't enjoy the piece of music just like you did on previous occasions. That's because you are not mentally ready. You are not emotionally ready. So that's what that's the purpose of meditation. You prepare yourself emotionally, and you prepare your mind. You make your mind ready to face any perception, anything that you would perceive through your sense faculties. Now that is the definition of meditation. And then what is meditation? Whenever you meditate, as you close your eyes, you happen to meditate and see the nature of your feelings, or maybe it is physical pain or pain in your body, or maybe a scary memory or a fond memory that is opening up, that is flowing back into your consciousness, your sensory consciousness. And then as you are trying to meditate, as you are trying to calm down, settle down, you find it difficult why that memory is taking over. It is good if it's a pleasant memory, but again, there's no guarantee that it remains pleasant forever, because that is relative and it is not permanent. It is fragile, so that feeling might disappear right away. But again, then you end up in dukkha, as we have repeatedly said. But because in order to avoid that, you use the causal approach. As the feelings occur, as bodily pain occur, as a certain memory that you created this morning comes back to consciousness, and then as you go through those mental conditions, it could be a tendency, it could be a feeling, it could be memory, or it could be a feeling out of bodily pain, or it could be a feeling out of something happened during the day to day, something scary, or be something pleasant. And as a result, when you fail to use the causal approach, then what happens is, so you easily end up in sadness again, end up in dukkha because of that inner struggle then. So that's why we are supposed to use the causal approach, not seeing, not simply appreciating. Of course, not simply appreciating pleasant feeling or depreciating or getting angry with the unpleasant feeling. You avoid both, and whatever the feeling it is. Why? Again, it could be a pleasant one, it could be an unpleasant one, and then both would finally take you back to what is dukkha. So the eventuality is going to be negative anyway, so that you don't rush to appreciate that pleasant feeling, because the moment you appreciate that pleasant feeling, you fall down. Actually, it is very typical of lots of meditators, just to get elated, get impressed with those pleasant feelings, and at times they are mistaken as to whether they are getting enlightened, because they see light and circles and fancy things. They create fancy visions, and mind, most of the time, mind plays tricks on you, tricks on our during our meditation. So when you use the causal approach, you are not specifically happy that you are enjoying, that you are having a pleasant feeling, and you are not specifically sad that the feeling is unpleasant. And at that point, causal approach helps you to have this what is called upekha. That is upeksha in Sanskrit, upekha in Pali, equanimity. Now, so that you are equal. You don't get shaken. You are not shaken by unpleasant feelings, and you are not elated by. You don't get elated by pleasant feelings, because the more elated you get, you go much too high, and when you fall back, it hurts more. And so that's when you need to avoid impression of meditation or motivation. The only way you have to motivate yourself in meditation is not to judge the feelings as pleasant or unpleasant or neutral or neither pleasant nor unpleasant or both. But and you simply say to yourself, whatever this feeling is, it is not permanent. It is going to take me back to dukkha, so that I am not specifically happy about this pleasant feeling. I am not unhappy about this unpleasant feeling. And that is called the causal approach. And so that's how it is explained in Majjhima Nikaya. And that's what probably Venerable Rahula was having that canonical definition of meditation in his head when he started. Then he penned his complaint in few lines here in this paragraph. And most people are interested in meditation or yoga in order to gain some spiritual or mystic power, like the third eye, which others do not possess. There was some time ago a Buddhist nun in India who was trying to develop a power to see through her ears while she was still in the possession of the power of perfect eyesight. This kind of idea is nothing but spiritual perversion. It is always question of desire, thirst for power. Actually, I also know a bunch of monks and nuns and lay people, my friends, even some of my distant relatives. And then even here in the West, whenever I say that I teach meditation, and they would simply ask, how long it will take you to teach me to raise myself, my body off the grounds? I said, no, ma'am, sir, I'm not able to do that myself. Or then, okay, then forget about it. I don't need that meditation. Because that's when people in general, that's why meditation is very corrupt in the West nowadays, because there are different ways of meditation. While in predominant Buddhist society like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, Laos, and there the meditation is more ritualistic. So, but actually then it doesn't help ritual. When the meditation is too ritualistic, it doesn't help us to develop what is called mental culture. So this the word meditation is a very poor substitute for the original term bhavana, again here, which means culture or development, i.e. mental culture or mental development. The Buddhist bhavana, properly speaking, is mental culture in the full sense of the term. It aims at cleansing the mind of impurities and disturbances, such as lustful desires, hatred, ill will, indolence, worries, and restlessness, skeptical doubts, and then doubts, and cultivating such qualities as concentration, awareness, intelligence, will, energy, the analytical faculty, confidence, joy, tranquility, leading finally to the attainment of higher wisdom, which sees the nature of things as they are. See, again, we come back. So the Venerable Rahul is repeating that phrase again here, and we did use that many times. See the nature of things as they really are, and realize that the ultimate truth, nirvana, again, as they really are. See, what is the typical way of unenlightened people? So we don't try to see things as they truly are, really are. We, consciously or subconsciously, we want to see things as they make us happy. That's what the typical human beings do. They don't struggle, they don't strive to see things as they really are. They want to see things as they are, as they come and as they bring them some happiness, as they are able to gratify them, as they are able to satisfy us. That is where the fundamental problem with our subjective approach. Going back to using going along those terms, subjective approach, and then here our ability to see things as they really are, so that we don't benefit from meditation unless we use the causal approach. So 4 minutes left. So Any last questions? So there are a few minutes left. There are two forms of meditation. One is the development of mental concentration, that is samatha or samadhi, or one-pointedness of mind, chitte kaggata, Sanskrit chitte kagrata, that's the equilibrium, by various methods prescribed in the text, leading up to the highest mystic state, such as the sphere of nothingness, or the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. That means non-dualistic approach. All these mystic states, according to the Buddha, are mind-created, mind-produced, conditioned, sankata. They have nothing to do with reality, truth, nirvana. This form of meditation existed before the Buddha. So the samatha form of meditation is pre-Buddhist. But what Buddha invented was that the other level, vipassana. So hence it is not purely Buddhist, but it is not included from the field of Buddhist meditation. It's not excluded actually, it is part of it. It is the lower level of meditation, samatha. Because samatha helps us to calm down. However, it is not essential for the realization of nirvana. The Buddha himself, before his enlightenment, studied these yogic practices under different teachers, meaning in popular Buddhism, there is some people see this the stratification of meditation, while some people who are happy that they are vipassana practitioners. I have come across some vipassana practitioners, they look down upon samatha practitioners, and they even say that samatha, and I have seen that happening in conversation, while a vipassana practitioner is telling a samatha practitioner that the latter, it would take the latter a long period of time to come to the vipassana level. But nowadays, tradition has stratified, or so that vertically stratified meditation. Well, samatha is much lower and vipassana is much higher. Unless you know samatha, how could you go to vipassana? But actually, with reference to the Majjhima Nikaya definition of meditation, and then so that the canonical definition of meditation, so that how to say, no, Venerable, the other way around. So Venerable Rahula's definition of meditation, so reconfirms, confirms the canonical definition of meditation. So there's no need to have, I have come across some people who could enter vipassana right away without doing any samatha. What happens is, the moment you only need to breathe just one. Maybe it only takes you a few seconds to achieve your samatha level, and you are calm, you are tranquil, and you are settled right away. And your mind is settled, you get your mind settled with one breath. And then you start doing vipassana meditation. Whereas I have come across some vipassana meditators, they have done vipassana meditation for many years, and it takes them like 20-30 minutes that long to settle, get their mind settled. That means they haven't done any vipassana yet, because they don't know how to calm down. So that's why there is no timeline there is no time for these two types of meditation. That being said, it's 4:30. I thought I should touch upon this meditation today because this is relevant to today's discussion on karma, and it's also relevant to yesterday's. Thank you very much, and then please email me, or in case you have any questions. Actually, did I give you my phone number? So that's 323-443-4040. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. Thank you, Tochita. Josh, I think you sent me the coffee, right? Is it someone? Yeah. Are you there? I got the coffee mail from Missouri. Anyway, I'll talk to that person. I think it's one of you who sent me some coffee. By the way, in case you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I am available after 8 o'clock because usually I go to bed around 11 o'clock, 11:30, that late. At times, humbly speaking, at times it takes much longer. At times it takes like forever to write emails, to answer questions that I get via email and also text messages. Whereas if you are able to chat with me over the phone, I can just like a parrot, I can just explain, right? It's time saving too, and bother me. So that trouble me with calling me, how to say, around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening. I mean, at night, no problem. I'm available to answer your questions. And like in 2 weeks' time, I will post some sample questions for the final exam. And somebody asked me whether there's a mock exams. No, there are not going to be mock exams. And then there could be, I will talk to the Venerable Bhikkhuni about the midterm. I wonder whether it's going to happen. So we have the freedom to that. We will talk about that later on. But what is more important at this point is that you prepare yourself for the final exam in June. So that very soon, within the next 2 weeks, I will post some sample questions on Slack. And please, just to give you a clue, just prepare yourself to answer those sample questions with reference to Rahula's book, What the Buddha Taught. And then compose answers. Start doing that, right, as soon as you get those sample questions. If you are willing to bring into more literature, you refer to more literature, you can download them from Google and you can share them with each other as well. But make sure that those are peer-reviewed, so that scholarly articles, not self-promoting articles, like Wikipedia also. Wikipedia, I respect Wiki, but it's not considered an academic source of reference, right? That being said, I will soon send you the sample questions. There'll be 5 questions. Prepare yourself to answer those questions. Start formulating answers for those questions, and that will really help you, and go through your own answers again and again. And you don't need to send them back to me, because keep them for yourself and study them, because those 5 questions, sample questions that I'm going to formulate and send to you would cover all the key teachings, all the key fundamental teachings here. And at the same time, there'll be one question that would ask you to give short answers. Remember the sample question that I sent you for the introduction to history of Buddhism class. Okay. Again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the time. I wish and pray that you all keep yourself from the pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bhante.